All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of the great millstone. Peace and salutation to the Akim, to the elect that is scattered throughout the four corners of this earth, pushing the truth and faith and in all sincerity. I'm the brother Shema Allah from the GMS Houston camp. And this is going to be a Stoic lesson. All right, going into one of the quotes, all right, by Marcus Aurelius. Okay, and as you can see, I have it up on the screen right here. And I believe that the title is going to be centered around, stop believing, every thought, that you have. All right, because in this, let's just read the quote first. All right, I don't want to explain, I don't want to explain everything or jump the gun. All right, but it says the first rule, right, is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. All right, so it says the first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. All right, basically, keeping, your spirit in check. Okay, because when certain situations, are brought upon you, from being in this flesh, it could put you, and it could trouble you. All right, to where you're thinking upon many things. All right, you could be stressing, depressed, or whatever, right? And being in that mind state, right, can basically, make you make horrible decisions because you're not thinking properly. Okay. But it says the second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. All right. So not what ifs. Okay. You got to look at the situation, for what it is. All right. You can't have, a pessimistic mind, which means a mind that's just dwelling on negativity all the time. Okay. Thinking about things that didn't even happen, all of this, okay? Just thinking, okay, what are the facts, in this situation, all right? Not the thoughts that are just creeping in your mind, all right? But let's get some scriptures real quick. This is Proverbs 16 and 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. So one that rules his spirit, right, is better than he that taketh a city. Right, and taking a city is a great, a great thing to accomplish. Right, being a man of war, right, and overcoming a city, right, or a town, a fortress, or whatever. Right, that is a great thing. But it says a person that are able to, rule their spirit is, is much better than that, right? Because, a man of war, right? If he don't have control over his spirit and emotions, that he can cause them to jeopardize the whole mission, the whole battle, right? It could get himself, destroyed, or killed, all right? Could cause a king, right, to make terrible decisions about the battle beforehand, like Yahweh Shai made the parable about, or the point, about the king not having enough, in his army to go against another king with a greater army than his. All right, roughly paraphrasing that, right, about counting the cost, basically. All right. Now, if a man is emotional, he ain't thinking right, this and that, you'll make the wrong decision. All right, so you got to be in a right headspace. All right, you got to control your spirit or rule your spirit. All right, and have patience. Okay, and ultimately, pray to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. All right. That's Proverbs 18 and 13. He that answers the matter before he heareth it is folly and a shame unto him. Right, so you got to know the whole situation. All right, you can't be assuming things. Okay. The Lord is going to be putting us in all type of situations. All right. And you can't, like I said, you can't think the worst. All right. You gotta understand that, if you're not a wicked man and you've been doing everything the Lord, been telling us to do, and you've been having that faith and you've been doing everything out of sincerity, all right, you shouldn't think that the Lord is bringing evil upon you. All right. Or you can be in a particular situation, with brothers. A brother might say something to you and it might rub you the wrong way, but he ain't mean it like that. And instead of talking to him, you having all these thoughts in your head, oh, damn, maybe this brother, hate me, or he don't like me, or it's this, or it's that. But you ain't talking, you don't know that. Those aren't facts. All right? Those aren't facts at all. Okay? Like I said, and being in this flesh could have these things creep into your mind. All right? Because the flesh and the spirit are going to be constantly at war. All right, these thoughts are gonna be there, but you gotta fight these thoughts off. Right, the spirit of fear, right, the spirit of doubt, worry, all of these things. All right. This is Wisdom of Solomon 9:14. For the thoughts of mortal men are miserable, and all devices are but uncertain. For the corruptible body presses down the soul, and the earthly tabernacle weighed down the mind, that music upon many things. And hardly do we guess aright the things that are upon the earth, and with labor do we find the things that are before us. But the things that are in heaven, who has searched out? Okay? So it says the thoughts of mortal man are miserable. All right? What it says in Jeremiah 17 about, that the heart is what desperately wicked. Who can know it? All right, so being in this flesh means our minds ain't right. So the things that we get, we can't be going off all that. All right, the things that we don't have the facts about. All right. You can't let let this flesh trouble you like that. All right, let these thoughts conquer you. All right, these things consume the people of the world. These are things that they have to battle with. All right. But we have comfort through the scriptures. All right. Through Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay. And it says that, we hardly guess things right on the planet Earth. Okay. So you could be thinking about a particular situation. You could be wrong on it. All right. That's why you got brothers. That's why you have counsel, But still, you got to be patient. This is Sirach 2:2. Set their heart to right and constantly endure, and make not haste in a time of trouble. All right. So don't make no hasty decisions. All right. When you're going through something, because a hasty decision can lead, to a bad decision or a bad outcome, a terrible outcome. All right, because of a feeling that you're feeling, or because of some type of thoughts that, that you have, and it ain't of the spirit. Okay? It says, cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state, right? So you got to have the patience, and eventually the Most High will reveal, whatever it is, unto you. Right, that you want to know. All right. What did Yahushua say about ask and ye shall receive, knock and it shall be opened unto you? All right, the Lord will show you, but He ain't got to show you on your time. It might take a little time. Okay. But it says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. All right, so we're gonna constantly, go through things here, right, in this society, in this captivity. All right, and that's part of the battle. Us dealing with all these type of thoughts and negativity, because ultimately, it's Satan too, bro. All right, we this is a spiritual battle, all right, and he trying to creep in either way, any way he can. To throw you off. all right, to keep you from being at ease, to keep your mind, from being, and dwelling on peace, right, and righteousness, right, in the spirit, right? Keep you far away from any type of clarity in situations, right? Any type of calmness. All right, he wants you to be bugging out, tweaking, stressing, making, hasty decisions. That's not of the scriptures. All right, it's not of the spirit. I mean, because you gotta think about, like, when you're in moments, bro. Like, all right, like, what are the facts about this situation? What's going on? Not what I am assuming in my mind, because you could be making it much worse. Okay, what is the Lord trying to show me? What do He mean by this? Okay, and will be a worthy way to respond, right, to the situation. All right, will the Most High, approve of this? Okay, so that's the lesson. Just edifying. With that, I'm gonna say shalom.